science, thank goodness. I mean, you know, science really does a lot of good, doesn't it? I mean, this thing, you know, so many things, you know, I can do, you know, I can, well, I can figure out how to like drive from here to Vegas using this thing, and I can figure out how to make jambalaya, you know, with it. Maybe figure out how to like perform the Heimlich maneuver. Useful things, I mean, definitely. But ultimately, this is what science is, you know, the particular science that create a device like this really works in an external way. You know, that there is this object which most of us would be connoting not as being a part of us, that it is external from who I am. And in science, that's the whole way that science has been able to take things into a lab and repeat them over and over again, whatever it might be, to prove that it works. So there's this use of the external, you know, and that approach of discovery of whether something works or not is outside in. It's starting with what's external, and inwards as though we move in to what is the truth of it. And of course, this whole experience, I mean, which you obviously know just in meditating, is very much working in the opposite direction. I mean, it's working from the inside out. It's from internally is what I'm going to generate what is true for me. Now that becomes really interesting when you know, apply it just in, you know, everyday life with like being at Starbucks or something like that. So, and you're sitting there, and maybe you're thinking a little bit about this whole notion of that. Well, if the truth of my experience is really generated from the inside out, then what can I do with this in Starbucks? So we'll just kind of do this now, which is basic. Is there someone else in the bathroom there? No? Okay. Basically, what you can do is, and do what's comfortable for you in this way, look at someone in the room who's not me. That's the only key to this being effective. Just look at someone in the room, and it's cool, you know, if you're comfortable looking, you know, eye to eye with someone, that's awesome, but it's equally awesome if you're not. So find someone in the room that you want to look at. And just observe them. Just observe them. You know, looking at shape, color, position. Don't try to think of body language, because that gets into conceptualization. You know, that's when you're starting to generate ideas. What does that mean? You know, her head's turned like that, or his eyes are... No, no need to do that. Just really observe the physical. Don't need to interpret that at all. So now as you're looking at the person, just consider whether or not you're experiencing a physical sensation due to what you're perceiving externally without any concept. Are you feeling anything just by observing, using the sense of sight? Without conceptualizing. All right, cool. Relax that. So what was going on there? Did you feel like there was more thinking about?
There was an interesting relationship between the ideas that I have from knowing the person,
Mm-hmm.
and then from just trying to do them in a very neutral way.
Mm-hmm.
What information I'm getting.
So there was still some information, you were processing some information still?
Yeah, but not, I mean, I touch myself here because information is not the right word, but like the sensations
Ah,
or whatever.
okay.
Like data.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was hard to separate that from, I would then go back to like the concepts from having known the person.
Mm-hmm.
And then back and forth.
Interesting. Oh, wow.
I felt a sense of being exposed
Mm.
myself
Mm.
for some reason.
Yeah.
Like looking at someone objectively and not putting emotion, you had said not trying to convey any sort of communication,
Mm-hmm.
just observing.
Mm-hmm.
I felt some sort of like I was being exposed as
Hmm.
well.
And was that when were you locked eyes with someone during that?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Interesting. Because in that situation, when you really are eye to eye with someone, then you can actually go a step further, which is to then the person, so you and I are looking eye to eye, then it would be to start to look at that person as being a display of the internal sensations that you're feeling, and then see what starts happening. But that really can only work. That can really only start to become something when you really are, locked eyes with someone. Because then there is this, and how this is phrased is then there's this external, internal, external going on. So I see this appearance right here that seems external, but then I'm actually trying to sense what it is that I'm feeling, and then I'm still looking back at this, and how is that potentially impacting it? Which gets back to like what you had brought up earlier about your body, is that once you start like loosening up the conceptualization of your sensations, then that starts getting more spacious, as to, doing that exercise between you and I, then this whole sense of me starts to shift, where is it, I'm you, who's who, well, Mike, me, what's really the difference here, and that's just getting in some worthwhile territory then, with this whole experience that gets into the third mark of self or no self. Anybody else have any kind of?
I was looking at my shaman since I don't have it really at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting because I was thinking about what Doug was saying last night about the referent feeling that we have.
Right, yes.
It was totally that. I was just looking at her thinking like, if I would see her somewhere randomly, would that trigger something about me, a good feeling or a bad feeling or jealousy or like what would I feel really? And it's really different since I saw her here.
Yeah.
Maybe if I've seen her somewhere else.
Wow.
It's like, I don't know.
That is so interesting too, because then it's almost as though that experience of if you saw her somewhere else, that triggers some sense of your identity, which I think gets to a really beautiful place, because then it's like, oh, that's me, so if you start to expand that, more and more as to whatever it is that you perceive that is a part of me, that is a part of what constitutes me, then there's some real, that sense of compassion can really start to take root in a way maybe it never has before. Because you really then are starting to experience people who are complete strangers or slightly strangers as really being a part of you. Just even in that would trigger not so much about her, but about you.
Nothing to do with her. I don't
Right, right.
know.
Awesome. Wow, kind of just want to keep doing that now. There is another meditation, but that'll probably take us about 10 minutes over, so I just want to see how people feel about that. Yeah, sure. Well, we'll tread lightly with it because this is really where we start to bring in the Vipassana aspect. The first one really is a body scan, being able to identify your sensations, your tactile sensations, and being able to just get into a relationship, illuminate your relationship with that. Now, which this is known as the 4 elements, because in this approach, it pretty much identifies the tactile sensations or physical sensations we have with the world through these 4 elements, which are our primary elements. So earth, the earth element is that sense of solidity and also boundary, which was great because you were just kind of playing with that a little bit by your sense of self, that sense of boundary of who you are being triggered by something external, another human being external to you. So this starts to make use, thinking about the earth element as we get into this meditation plays into that. And in fire, which is really a sense of heat or cold. And cold, when you think about it, is really the absence of heat to some degree. And water, which is the sense of moisture or fluidity. And then air, which is really our sense of movement. And even more, I think even more closer to the truth of the experience is change, which really becomes potentially useful when you start applying the understanding through this meditation, as you do the meditation and you do it on your own, how that can relate to pain. How it is that when you have an experience, a physical experience of pain, what happens when you take one of these elements and apply that to that sensation? So for instance, that maybe a headache, you apply a sense of heat to that, and then seeing how you work with it in that sense. So this works with these 4 elements in this way, and it's what we'll do is we'll just. Oh, you have a question? Yeah.
What category would a desire? Would that be fire?
Desire. You could go both ways. I think desire can work in all of those elements. I think many of us I'm sure, could relate heat to that. But then there's also that sense of think about it when you feel a lack of desire. Is there that sense of cold? Like that person is cold-hearted, something like that. Is that sensation of that, because they lack desire, they lack passion and so forth. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that for you as to how desire works with those elements. All right, so let's do this briefly, just to have a taste of it. So awesome how all of you know your favorite positions. It's just like, it's amazing yogis. You say meditate and like, whoop. All right. So relaxing into your posture, your favorite position, feeling relaxed, yet alert. And beginning by just listening to the room. Letting the inner play-by-play announcer take a break. Just relax into being with your life quietly. And if any distraction arises, just gently release it and rejoice in letting go of distraction. Being clear once again. And relax on your exhale. And return to simply listening to your life. Right now, there's no one you need to be, no role you need to fulfill. And draw your focus from the room into your body by placing your attention on any physical sensations that arise. And begin to recognize the earth element by the feeling of connection between your body and the ground. Wherever your body is in contact with the ground, feeling that sense of firmness. That's the earth element. And just focus on that feeling of solidity. And ask yourself, is the sensation of connection that you're feeling solid throughout? Is it unchanging? Is it the same physical sensation in this moment as it was a moment ago? If your experience is the same, Are you experiencing it as a physical sensation or as a concept? So let these questions remain in the background as you identify another sensation of solidity or firmness. It could be the connection between your hands and your body, or your hands on the ground. Just notice what the truth of your experience with this physical sensation in your body is. Now shift your attention to an emergence of the water element by identifying a physical sensation of moisture, such as the feeling of saliva in your mouth or perspiration on the skin. Give that sensation your full, bare attention. Is this sensation of moisture the same this moment as the previous moment? Can you discover any physical sensation of moisture that is unchanging? Now identify a physical sensation of heat or cold and give it your full moment-to-moment bare attention. And examine the sensation of heat or cold for the first mark of existence. Is it changing moment to moment? How long does this sensation last? Does the intensity of the heat or cold remain constant, or does it change? Does the sensation of heat or cold remain the same after you train your attention to it? Or does somehow giving it your attention alter it? Now shift your attention to the air element, the physical sensation of movement. It could be the breath, feeling that in relation to the body, or the circulation of blood, or digestion. Or it could even be a more subtle sensation like tingling, vibration, or itching. And after you identify the sensation, discard the concept and give it your full bare attention with the question, is it constant or changing? Within your entire body, can you find any physical sensation other than earth, water, fire, or air? If you're focused only on physical sensations with no conceptual map, can you feel a boundary to your body? You can begin to release that focus. Lengthen your breath. And gently open your eyes. Yeah. Impermanence. You know, we all intellectually know that our body is a changing thing, you know. And what this can really be helpful with is how we relate to all of those changes, you know. Sickness, aging, also, you know, great joy and bliss as to what it is that we know is just not going to stay the same. You know, we know that, you know, but then there's another way, then as they say, but then do we know that? You know, how deeply do we really know that? And really live by that? Because on a certain level, when you really get to know that you have a temporal realization of your body and its fleeting nature, that could be quite a gray day, or weeks or months, maybe even years. I mean, obviously, we know all about the depression statistics, and but the other way about approaching it is, what is it about the changing nature that I realize is really the issue. And really what the issue is of course our, stay the same, feel this good all the time, do not change, be this pretty, be this handsome, forever, for the rest of this life. I don't even need forever, just give me 70 years of that, 80 years of that. That's all I'm asking out of infinity. So it's the grasping, it's the grasping, it's the clinging, it's the attachment to that. So what this can really start to do is to help us in a really loving, mindful way let go of that. Let go of that attachment and be able to accept it. Accept it. Accept it. This is the deal. This is the deal. And it really, it gets right into the core of our misunderstanding of how things work. There's that, on a conceptual level, we get it. We know. But then day in and day out, throughout the day, we don't live by that. We don't live by it. So this is really part of what, I hope can be something of tremendous help, as you're able to, sit in a cafe and be looking at a person who maybe is not looking at you because you don't want to upset them or something of that sort, but you're doing a little external, or maybe just external, internal, and seeing what that feels like to thinking about how this body is going to keep on changing, and why not try sooner or later to just really embrace that reality, and the suffering won't be as nearly as bad. Yeah. So Thanksgiving. Yeah, Thanksgiving this week. It's such a, one of the big things here is, is constantly talking about gratitude and what really generates that, which is the sense of abundance, feeling abundant. When you do not know if that next project's coming in, you do not know, if you're going to be able to make your rent or be able to pay for the plane ticket or whatever it might be. But if one has a sense of abundance and not working from a sense of lack, what I don't have, then that can start to really generate an experience of that in your life. So I always look at that in terms of that, well, that works to me if whatever it is feels really valuable, worthwhile to me. So by all means, if any of this has felt worthwhile to you, please donate to the center, because that's what keeps this aspect of it going, And the truth of the matter is, if you do believe that, then that's absolutely what you'll see in your life. It's unstoppable. It's unstoppable if you really believe that generosity works that way, that it's by giving from a place of abundance. You have enough, so you give it. And not everything is given. That's all people are doing is giving. How did you get the cash in the pocket? Someone gave that to you, a bank. You know, who gave you a job? You know, who taught you how to read? Who taught you how to drive? You know, all of it can just be a continual process of giving, if you choose to see it that way. And also, I don't know, do people know who Thich Nhat Hanh is? Have you ever heard of this? He's over there on the altar right now. He's, you know, absolutely a world leader in compassion and wisdom for a number of years, and he's been in a coma now for a bit of time. And I was reading one of his some of his poetry recently, and this poem really is very much about shamatha-vipashyana, this whole progression, as to if you really are able to stay focused and probe deeper into life, words like this can mean a whole lot. This is actually an excerpt from the poem called Looking for Each Other. The moon of freedom has returned to me everything I thought I had lost. From that moment on, and in each moment that followed, I saw that nothing had gone. There is nothing that should be restored. Every flower, every stone, and every leaf recognize me. Wherever I turn, I see you smiling, the smile of no birth and no death. The smile I received while looking at the mirror of the moon. I see you sitting there, calm as my own breath, sitting as though no raging firestorm ever occurred, sitting in complete peace and freedom. At last I have found you, and I have found myself. There I sit. With my one-pointed mind, I vow to nourish your solidity and freedom in myself, so I can offer solidity and freedom to countless others, now and forever. So have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for coming.